I call this meeting to order. Please rise to pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty. Does anybody have any additions or deletions to the agenda? No? Ready? Public comment, do we got any? No? Okay. School spotlight.
We asked Principal Hudak to circle back around and give us something positive happening at Three Creeks Elementary.
Sure. So when we were asked to kind of give a presentation, oftentimes I would focus on a particular student group or something that kind of was a spotlight for our year. This year I decided to take a look at something much larger because it encompasses multiple student groups as well as multiple adult relationships as well as a connection to family and school, and because coming back this year was very different. So about 4 years ago, we were handed the term MTSS, which meant a whole child education. It meant looking at a child for their academic standpoint as well as their behavior standpoint. We had a pretty good solid understanding of what it meant to help a student academic, but we weren't necessarily trained professionals in behavior. And so the state was asking us to design and develop a similar model for behavior intervention that encompassed sort of 3 tiers, but there wasn't a lot of kind of design work that went behind that. There were a couple of schools that we had looked at. The state had given us some sample like models that some elementary schools have done, but it was kind of relatively new. So this year when we returned back, we kind of thought, well, all of our students have had different experiences. We saw quite a few that moved in from Illinois that were fully virtual for 2 years. Some of our kindergartners had never had a preschool experience and never had a social interaction. Some of our own students were on virtual for a year. Some of our kids missed a lot of school because they were out on quarantine. And so this year, our sole focus, and knowing that we got a dean of students as an extra hand, our sole focus became on how do we get everyone connected back to that more normal school feeling. We want to make sure that our school connection is strong from student to student, from teacher to student, from administration to teacher, from school community to family community. And so this year we really focused on that second level, that behavior piece, and really setting up a full comprehensive behavior MTSS model. And so on the front here, this is my SEL leadership team. And so these are the people we meet every single week, at least once a week. We meet with each other. So I have someone who is licensed in behavior specialist. I have my SSA, myself. I have a behavior paraprofessional that is trained. And then I also have my dean of students. And we really spent some time carving out concrete roles that would help all of our students move through some of these tiers. Highlight the positive behavior, identify some of the behavior that needed opportunities, whether it was small interventions or very, very strong interventions. How do I do this? So sort of starting with our tier 1, I'm just going to kind of give you an overview of things. Our school community decided when students come back, we want to really hit the ground running with connections. One of the things I've done with my staff every year for the last 4 years is we use John Gordon's work where he talks about one word that shapes who you are. So we can have these lofty goals and decide what those goals are, but really when it comes down to it, if you have something simple, concise, and something that you can change in one word or aim to, what is that one word going to be? And so we always used to have a wall of one word. And so I would frame a lot of my conversations around that. They chose a word that would drive them. So we decided to bring John Gordon's work into our own school and make this a school community activity. So every class said, this is a new year. We are back, we are in this environment. What school classroom word do you want to focus on? So each student spent some time doing activities around John Gordon's work, One Word for Kids, and they together collectively chose a word that would drive their school culture for the year. And so these are a couple of the words. The 5th grade classes chose unique and develop. I did kindergarten that chose a love. And so every sort of so often, we would periodically go back to this word in the classroom, and it fostered sort of a specific culture identity within each of the classroom. And you'll see these are all of the different words that were chosen kind of in our school. So most often when I come in and do awards, a lot of them are tied to the word that they chose. Some of the activities that we do are tied to the word that they chose. When we talk about Tier 1, we really talk about the whole school in the classroom. What are we going to do to bring about positive behavior and celebrate behavior from a whole systems perspective? And so these are some of the things that we've been able to do. One of the things that I really did was I wanted my dean to specialize in one area so that she could support that specific population, and then I wanted my SSA to really get back to the roots of counseling and helping sort of that. So they were sectioned off into two different things. The guidance counselor was around emotion and sort of emotional disabilities, family. She became sort of the family liaison, and then my dean became the academic and conduct. So she worked really close with teachers. So if there was a student that needed support in academics or behavior conduct, she was the go-to person. If it was a child or a family that needed support in anxiety and emotional disabilities, some things like that, grief, anything like that, then my guidance or social SSA became that point person. So these are all of the things that we focused on together as a whole school or classroom. So we have a second step curriculum that's going on in our classrooms right now. This has been a really positive thing for kids, and what we've seen with that is some kids don't want to share academics, so they may not be comfortable sharing an academic, especially if they have a deficit, but they shine in some of these second steps, and they're all about sort of just breaking down sort of the walls and building a connection, talking openly about some things, who they are, what relationships they have, what it means to kind of be a good citizen, those types of things. Our SSA, because we have the dean and we kind of sectioned off, she has been able to get into classrooms to do monthly activities. So she ties a lot of those monthly activities either to their Wonders program, or she talks with some of the needs of the grade levels and comes in and does builds relationships with guidance lesson plans. A lot of times she'll follow up sometimes with some parents about some things within those guidance lesson plans. She also will also do around their monthly work too. So she kind of picks and chooses sort of based on the need, if there's a specific need at the grade level, or if we're seeing a trend sort of across the school. But she's in there building that relationship with kids and pushing out some lessons, and also helping our teachers feel comfortable in teaching some of those things. So she's been able to keep a consistent schedule. The other thing that we really kind of focused on, which was really unique, and this was driven by my teachers, this was very organic, is that we started pairing up some kids, and I'll talk a little bit about our peer mentoring program. We started pairing up older kids with younger kids for a role model in a formalized peer mentoring program. And then our teachers saw the positive impact that they had, so they started pairing their classrooms up. So the older teachers started pairing up with the younger teachers, and they've all organically done this. So my third grade classroom decided when it was Thanksgiving that they decided to go into the kindergarten classrooms, and they designed a Thanksgiving Day parade balloon. They did like a lesson over it. They helped them with everything. My fifth grade students wrote their own plays. They developed their own plays from start to finish, and they decided to connect with first grade classrooms to go and present those plays. Then my fourth grade classrooms decided to go into younger music classrooms and teach them how to play music. So organically, what started to happen is all of my teachers have picked younger grade levels to send those kids in, to give them a role model, to kind of do those lessons. And it has just opened up the world of eyes for teachers who have seen what it's like, more empathy for like kindergarten and what they look like and understanding. But also, it's changed the way that they also view some of the kids' relationships with each other, because the kids have said, wow, this kid really struggles to stay on task. Like, they're really struggling. Like, I have to redirect them all the time, or I have to. So it's given them conversation about what does that look like in a younger kid? What does that look like in an older kid? And so my fourth grade also did some plays, and so they've all just organically partnered up and have done different projects to kind of help support that upper and lower elementary, really role model and mentorship. Some of my teachers have implemented morning meetings, so they've taken to sort of the specialty of morning meetings. So in kindergarten, we were struggling with kids and separation anxiety from getting out of the car into the classroom. And so we kind of evaluated and said, what are we doing first? What is the first thing that we're doing? Well, typically we're getting them in a routine, we're having them sit at their desk, we're having them do this. And so we talked about, well, let's change that. What can we do to get kids excited or in here? And so some of my kindergarten teachers and my first grade teachers have started morning meetings where the environment of the classroom is very different. They don't come in, they don't sit at their desk, they have routines where they do all of their lunch counts, everything independently, and then they get into this morning meeting. Now, each morning meeting looks a little bit different, but the structure is very similar. It starts with a greeting, it starts with a song, it might start with a social story, it starts with a share out. One of my morning meetings, a kid every day gets assigned a joke or a riddle, and he comes back to school or she comes back to school and they get to present that joke or that riddle. So it starts with just getting the kids to feel like school isn't just academics, hit the ground running, but it also allows us to kind of emphasize some social settings, some social stories, some connections, those types of things. And really it only takes about 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes for them to do kind of everything, unless it's like a topic. They might cover a topic or something like that. We are we do monthly school-wide activities, so we have a monthly calendar of things that we do that's tied to some of the work that we do. Our principal award this year was tied to the word that the classroom chose. So the kids and the teacher chose the child based on the word that they wanted to focus on. And so I choose someone every 9 weeks that is a leader in that word, or is someone that is exhibiting the characteristics that they want with that word. And so these are just kind of some of the activities that we did. We also really wanted to get back to extracurriculars. So we did a really kind of solid push to kind of engage kids to get back into extracurriculars because we know that that was missing for them. And so my teachers were really strong in making sure that they tried to make some personal connections with students to come out for extracurriculars. So our Girls on the Run Club has over 66 girls that are participating in that. And I have 16 staff members that are coaching after school for that. I was the only school that had a spell bowl this year, and I had over 44 kids come out for spell bowl. And we made it, the rest of the schools didn't have enough students to come out for that, but we made it an inclusion and a gen ed spell bowl. So some of our special ed kids that were strong in spelling made the team, and it was kind of a unique sort of way to build some relationships that way. We just had our math bowl competition. We had quite a few kids that came out with that. They got first in their division, and then Oak Hill and us tied for first for the region. We hit the ground running with robotics. We also made sure that we gave our Nifty Notes kids the experiences back that they missed out on. So Nifty Notes isn't just a choir contest that is in our building, but our Nifty Notes choir teacher will work with them individually to choose a song and highlight what it is that is their strength and get them into the honor choir that's down in Indianapolis. So we were able to send these four kids down to the honor choir to participate in the state choir with other elementary schools, and then our robotics team. And then we also brought back some of our student council activities that were missing as well. We really kind of revamped our PBIS plan. So we've been going through a year long. One of the things that we wanted to do was build connections in our PBIS plan. And so we created some pieces in there where kids, instead of buying things, they could use their bear paws for relationship building. And that has been a huge success. So instead of buying some of those, sticky things, or all of our staff volunteered to be on the time list so that they could spend time with kids. And so every single one of our staff member has volunteered something that they would do if kids earn enough bear paws. So for me, they get to be principal with me. Some of it might be a game. So all of our staff members are in that, and we've just seen a huge, kids will save their bear paws up just to be able to do something with a staff member. We have kids that are saving their bear paws up to push the cart down into classrooms and help little kids pick out their items. We have kids that are saving their bear paws to be featured on the bear paw video each month. So we've seen a shift of instead of buying the small trinket items, they're really using or saving their bear paws up to buy relationship time or to be part of something that's showcased in the school. So that's kind of our tier 1. Then we go into our tier 2, which are things that kids might need a little bit more support in. So one of the biggest pieces that we did was we looked at peer mentoring. And so these are the kids that tier 1 interventions aren't working. They need a little bit more support, but maybe they don't need necessarily a full comprehensive plan. So we decided to really focus number 1 on peer mentoring. So we started the Peer Mentoring Club, which is student-to-student mentoring, and this is for students in grades 4 and 5. They are paired up with a younger child that may need some additional attention, or maybe the teacher might need some additional attention, or some support in the classroom. And so they go in and kind of help and support and build a relationship with that student. And then we also started adult-to-student mentoring. So this little girl right here had severe anxiety, would not come into school, was virtual. She is my daily greeter. She comes in every day. She wears a yellow vest, so she dresses in a yellow vest with me, and she greets kids every single day. And I say the kid's name, and I look at her, and she says the kid's name. So now kids are coming up to her and giving her a hug before they even give me a hug. We do the same thing in library. We have adult mentors that come in and help Diana Torres with things in the library. So some of those kids that were struggling to come in, we've made connections with adults so that it's a little bit less scary for them when they have to greet someone. So she would not say a lot of words, and because I would be next to her and say, oh, this is my friend so-and-so, can you say hi? It became less threatening for them with an adult next to them to teach them some of those skills. So a lot of our adults in the school from that 7:30 to 8 o'clock time when we're doing supervision are also acting as mentors. I have quite a few adult cafeteria workers that are also doing breakfast, but they sit down with a child and as their mentor at the same time. We started Bears groups. This was another kind of answer to some of our tier 2 problems. We have a breakfast club. So these were also kids that were having difficulty coming in, kicking, screaming, crying, not wanting to leave the house. So again, we said, what do we do to help them? How do we get them here so it's less of a threatening environment at first? So we started our first ever breakfast club, which is a group of kids. They do this every day. They get their hugs in the office. They go to the Bears Den. They have their own setup in the Bears Den. And they don't use it every day. So sometimes they get their hugs and they go to class. Sometimes they come in and say, it's been a little bit of a morning. I'm going to go to the Bears Den. Someone's in the Bears Den. They have their own menu. They have their own thermometer check if they're feeling stressed or if they just need a little time to wipe their tears sometimes before they go in front of their peers. They might have just their own coloring activity. They basically have their own kit basically that they do, and they're in there 5 to 7 minutes. They're in the classroom before generally class starts. And so we have seen obviously kids who have started needing it every day, to some kids who have needed it less and less and have cut down the time to be able to get in there to engage and then be back in the classroom. And then we've been able to start our small groups. So we actually have 10 small groups that are running right now. And my SSA actually said to me just yesterday, she said, she was crying and she said, I've been wanting small groups for 4 years and I just love that we have 10 small groups, and they're anxiety groups, they're grief groups, so we've had a lot of kids who have lost their parents. We have changing families groups, so we have a lot of families who have been divorced or a step-parent has come in. And so we have 10 small groups, and that's about 40 kids that are meeting maybe only once a week, but they're building relationships with each other and they're getting some support, and those families are also getting that material. The families sign off on the small groups, and so she sends some of that home as a connection for the parents and what's going on in groups. We also implemented this as part of our Bears Den, which I'll talk a little bit. We wanted to catch the tier 2 kids before they escalated. So some kids just need a pause. Sometimes they need to go somewhere to just finish something in a quiet zone. Sometimes they just need a pause before they get to that escalation mark. So we've actually started to formulate and kind of systematically approach behavior with all teachers so they know what behaviors are at which levels. And so the pause pass is a response to specific leveled kids before they get to that point where they can't take it anymore. And so we call it a pause pass. This is something that a group of teachers are using for students that might be like in a level 2 out of 4. So they just need somewhere to go or something to do so that they don't get to a level 3 or 4, and that's when destruction happens, or that's when, you know, the other kids. It can be anywhere between 5 or 7 minutes. They go down, they check in to our bear's den. We are getting ready to put up like a temperature gauge. They tap it like the belief sign of Notre Dame where they are. The person that's in there kind of checks in with them. The teacher decides how long maybe that they're going to be there, that they need to return. If not, our behavior specialists are trained for anywhere between 5 and 7 minutes. And the maximum time, research says, if you get them in there within 5 or 7 minutes, you get much more return time in the classroom. So it's just a quick communication, and this is one way we're going to start keeping data in our bear's den. But this is to help catch those kids before they escalate. Then you have your tier 3 kids who you do all the things in the world and that still doesn't work. So you need some really intense intervention. And so this has been our passion project this year, which is our bear's den. These are for the kids that have formalized FBAs. They are either diagnosed, undiagnosed, they might have 504 plans, they might be in the process of special education evaluation, they might just be kids who have come in from kindergarten and don't have a lot of experience with a social environment, and they need consistent, constant sort of attention and sort of training and redirection and kind of just really shaping them with the expectations. So this is, we started this at the beginning of January, and what you'll notice is we have a group of students who are just in there kind of utilizing some of our materials, but we have 2 staff members that work kind of consistently with each other, and we have a master schedule of everyone that is having time that's built into there. But basically what it looks like is these are your kids that have specific behavior goals and plans, and they're consistently monitored. So they might be in there for any certain, their service minutes are based on almost what would be considered either a case conference committee decision, or if they're not qualified or don't have a special education plan, a school committee. We decide service time together with the parent, with BSI. We also have some of our small groups that are in there, and we also have things like music therapy in there for younger kids, and so this is kind of changing. Our goal is always to get a kid out of tier 3, and so sometimes it starts with some destructive behavior. They're not in the bear's den if it's destructive behavior, because we want to take that as a way to be a positive place to go and not a place where you behave to go. And so we have actually seen probably about 6 of our kids that started sort of in that destructive mode now going into the bear's den as a regular check-in for a positive. They're earning some of that time. Just the other day we had a kid in there, and the kid was facilitating the behavior of the other kids and said, you need to make sure that you put this away, or you treat this way, or make sure you do this. We don't want to lose this. This is what we got to. So the kids are starting to facilitate each other based on some of those behavior expectations. And so we have some kids that leave, and then some new kids that sometimes come in. It's just dependent sometimes on the student needs. But we always have a master schedule of those right now that are consistently there. We focused a lot on this year on growing our own leaders, and so we've encouraged our students to really take time to show their own leadership. So I have a couple of pictures here. These are things that have just naturally happened because we've empowered them to take ownership in their leaders or their own style of leadership. We've never asked them to do these things. They have just come up with them and asked them, and our staff and our teachers, because we are focusing on being role models and being leaders, have given them the opportunity to showcase them. So up in the top corner, this is a natural thing that just happened. It started with 2 kids, and now I have to send kids back to class because they want to clean the windows, they want to wash the tables, they want to take the trash out, they want to clean up, the floor. I'll have this is before they go to recess. They want to do these things before they go to recess, and I have to send kids out, go to recess. We have a rotating schedule now. I have about 17 kids that will just stay behind after their lunch to help wash tables, pick up the garbage, do things, and we have it rotating, so I'm like, you need to get out. This one, all we simply said is, this week is kindness, show us your leadership skills. How are you gonna be kind this week? This poster made me cry. These two kids are quiet. They don't really say a lot necessarily, but sometimes we don't give them any direction. So they came in, and I always stand right here. They came in with this sign, and on it has lollipops, and at the time I'm thinking, oh gosh, we do not need to be handing out lollipops to kids right now. That's plastered to a poster board. But they said they went home last night, they asked their mom to go get lollipops. They made this poster, and they stood outside they had to get here early. They stood outside from 7:30, and they asked if they could stay until the bell rings so that they could tell everyone how much kindness matters, and to ask them too, what are you going to do today that makes a difference? How are you going to be kind today? And I had a group of kindergartners, and one of the kindergartners has autism, so if something doesn't go his way, he starts crying. He didn't get a lollipop, and so he starts crying. And one of the other kids, this kid right here, goes up to another kid and said, my little friend right here is crying because he didn't have a lollipop. He's like, I don't have any more lollipops. So what could we do about the situation? And the kid goes, he can have my lollipop. Clearly it's more important for him to have this lollipop. I'm okay with it. And I just sat there and watched that and thought, he recognized, he has no idea why this kid is crying. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, he's never gonna get over this lollipop situation. And then this one down here is a group of fourth graders that had asked to spend some of their time in the library, cleaning books, reorganizing, decorating, reading to kids. We have kids that met their NWA goal and they got a prize. And one of the girls yesterday asked, can I go read a book to my sister's class in library? And so our answer is always yes. Give your kids time to grow into a leader. Foster that and empower that. And so that is kind of some of the things. And so at the end of every announcement, I always just say, remember, Bears, be the best you every day. And that includes finding a way to make yourself shine. And so this is kind of the encompassing work that we've been doing for a year. And it didn't involve one single group of kids. It involved all of our kids, all of our teachers, all of our families, and just that connection and making sure that school is special again.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any questions for Lindsay?
Some great ideas.
Yeah,
Love
absolutely.
what you're doing.
Thanks. It's been a year, but it's been an inspiring year for sure, because I think when you're challenged, you grow and you come together as a team and you think about, in the end, what's the best thing that you can do for kids and for yourself really is take time to kind of build those relationships and make school about some of these things as well.
Your staff has really buckled down during a very difficult year to come up with some incredible solutions for this, and to go beyond just a solution, but to build culture with it too. That's huge. You're just not solving problems, you're empowering them to solve problems through the culture of the building. That's incredible. It's really good.
And I love that you're looking at each kid as an individual and helping them where they need help. That's so huge.
I love the sense of community that's being established, right? When you have a sense of community, you have better attendance, you have that. This is also the building that we are piloting the work with behavior specialists in Indiana. So next month we'll be looking at the data that we've collected to see, hey, was this indeed, we don't want perception, we want some data. So the preview that Lindsay has shared with Kevin and I is very positive. So we're excited about that. I point that out because there's a lot of potential here in what we saw tonight to be a leading example for other school districts.
Yeah, it looks like you guys are doing some great things over there. I know my kids love going to school there, so.
Well, and that's what we tried. It was challenging. I mean, that the first couple of months it was, and we said we've got to figure out what to do, because we have to make these connections again, and these kids have to learn that school is an experience and a wide variety of experiences, and that it's not a scary place to be, where because some of them have been living in the comforts of their home. So just the perception of leaving home and being in a building with, you know, different expectations can sometimes be scary for a kid.
Are you still wearing your firefighter hat as you were?
I am not. I am not, knock on wood, but no, I am not. And I have a true crisis team and I have a true SEL team that when someone says something and they say, you know, they say something, I already have someone that answered that radio call and they're already pushing in for support instead of, so I am not wearing that firefighter hat anymore, which allows me to do a lot of different things and be able to kind of support this extra work that is organically happening from some of the staff. Instead of being reactive, we're starting to be proactive about things, and that feels really great.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Please go home to your family.
All right, superintendent's report?
So to go along the same lines, we have hired our new safety and security coordinator. If you've not been able to meet her yet, she wanted to be here tonight, but she's closing up some meetings out of town. She has relocated. But I want to give you an update on what she's done so far. So since arriving the first Monday after spring break, the Wednesday she attended an anti-bullying conference in Merrillville, sponsored by the gymnasts. There were over 500 people there. So she has attended that training. She has consulted with the middle school already, started running discipline reports, trying to find out what are the types of infractions we're seeing this year, from assaults, to fighting, to bullying, and getting a handle on the frequencies, locations throughout the building, time of day, and she will be expanding that then to the other 4 buildings, pulling some data together. She is in the process of researching and putting a spreadsheet together of all of those safety protocol programs that you see prominently throughout our country regarding, for example, when you have an active intruder, do you subscribe to the run, hide, fight? Do you get out, lock out, take out? So we're looking at what's out there, what's the training that is involved, and what do we believe would be best for Tri-Creek to adopt so that we can then start retraining everybody. And there's no question, when you walk down the hallway and you go up to any person, what do you do in this given situation? They're able to recite those action steps. She has met the chief of police, and she's been in every building. We do constant check-ins. We want to make sure that we're onboarding her appropriately. She has already updated and submitted our report for the Safe Schools grant for this quarter. And I could go on and on. So she, the other main priority before the end of the year is to start looking at some kind of actually kindness campaign that Lindsay kind of spoke of, like how can we then get that started next school year. But before we do that, we talked about putting together a student survey. So she'll be this next week developing that survey out and getting that going. So that is Stacy Heems, and she will be here at the next morning.
So she's hitting the ground running.
She is, and I don't know if any of you have anything to add, but
Bouncing around the buildings. She's in our office too. She's been asking some great questions. She prepped for your meeting at the police. So yeah, then meeting with me and asking and doing some research. So I'm seeing a lot of proactive work ahead of time to really incorporate her. So I know she met with criminal justice steps by chance too. So yeah, she's really jumping in.
Tuesday she'll be meeting with one of the co-chairs of the Lake County Safe Schools Commission, Mr. O'Donnell, I know him as Sergeant O'Donnell from Hanover, and building that network and then reaching out to other SROs. Good project.
Good.
I I don't know if you have had an opportunity to look at your emails, but my wonderful secretary over there has opened them up from the Indiana School Board Association. So we've got some items here, individual levels. They noted that Deborah Harden has been recognized as commendable in the Indiana School Board Association. And that it looks like Mr. Mitch and Mrs. Dan have been recognized at the advanced level. And I believe that's based on the number of conferences and meetings attended. And then the board as a whole has been identified as commendable for each month. So kudos. Last night, we were able to host our fourth community meeting regarding the district-wide facility assessment. I see an audience member here tonight who was there last night. Just a quick recap, we reviewed the purpose of dreaming big in order to really look into the future, make sure that we're not confined in our thinking about what are the needs and the wants, and thinking about programming in the future. Even though there may not be resources to fulfill the dream, you can at least lay out a plan so that if resources become available along the journey, you already have a plan in place to possibly phase in projects, so that when you phase in a project, you're not undoing something that maybe you just did 5 years ago because you didn't have the forethought. So we got to break out building by building, take a look at schematics of possible floor plans, and prioritize what that possible phasing would look like at each site. And then we ended up coming all back together to talk about priorities for the school district. And we really are not at the point to do that because we need to find out what the preschool committee that's been formed comes back with. For example, do we look at embedding preschool into 3 elementary schools? Do we look at building an early learning center? So that would be something to look at. We need to take a look at community enrollment and those projections. You know, do you acquire additional space at the elementary schools by perhaps moving all 5th graders to this middle school campus? That was the original intent of building this building to house grades 5 through 8. You know, what would that potentially look like? Do you have a school within a school, maybe a 5-6 school, 7-8 within this one larger facility? And then so preschool, 5th grade, and then just overall, you know, where are you with resources and budget? So that's my opinion.
Thank you. Does any of the board members have anything? All right, moving on. Approve the minutes of the meeting held on March 24th, 2022.
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Payroll and claims. Motion.
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Personnel. Approve the personnel report dated Thursday, April 14th, 2022.
I'll make the motion. I will second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Building and grounds, Red Devil Trains building construction update.
So this is Jeff Napawaki from CSK Construction.
Should. Thank you. I'm Jeff Napawaki with CSK Architects, and I'm just gonna run through real quick some photos of where we're currently at with the project. The good thing is we are enclosed now, so we'll be starting to really work on the inside, and it's going along well and currently on schedule. So with that, first picture here, this is on the Area A addition. It's the southeast corner of the building. Notice we've got our windows in, masonry's in. We've even got sidewalks at this location. This here is moving a little bit east along that same south side of the building. Gentleman on the roof there is putting in new metal roofing. Again, I've got bricks. The windows there for one of the classrooms. The gray finish that you see there is the primer coat, and then we'll put on the exterior insulation and finish it with the stucco-like finish to match the rest of the building. And then this is the southwest corner of that. Okay, so gentleman working on the roof. The door there is the exit for the new south welding base. This is kind of along Holtz Street there. That is the welding exhaust equipment. We have the yard wall constructed now, so it's kind of covering some of that stuff. But the unit on the left-hand side is the existing that we relocated previously we're using, and then the new larger unit is on the right-hand side. Both of those units are currently functioning, and we're using them now. This is on the east side along Holtz Road. This is the Area B addition. Again, we've got our masonry is complete here. We're just waiting to get the finish for the exterior stucco finish. The area boarded up. There is the overhead door into the receiving area. Then this is the north side, basically in the parking lot. Again, currently the masonry is completed. Get the finish in. Those clear story windows. The windows are in the areas that are boarded up and need the operable portions so that they can ventilate if they have to at certain times of the season. It's kind of warm or whatever. And this is inside that area. Notice basically we're painted, ceiling's painted. This area is pretty much basically finished for the moment. The overhead the opening that you see right in the center, that's into that receiving area that I talked about earlier. And this is that same room, just looking a little bit toward the east. And you can see those clear story windows. This is in the, again, this is that same area right after the receiving room. This is an area that they're going to do some demonstration of some welding, not the actual welding bays themselves, but an area for demonstration. And the windows are in that area beyond is the grinding room, so that they can stand in close so that they can collect the dust and stuff and the grinding and everywhere else. These are 3 of the welding bays that are currently being assembled in our new area on this B portion. This is the welding classroom. The area beyond where the windows are is the lathe area of fabrication, the new lathe area. This is what we call Area A addition. Notice that we got the the grid ceiling in and the light fixtures are in. And then this is the auto shop classroom. Again, ceiling, lighting. And then finally, a milestone. We took delivery and installed the new transformer, and we were able to do the electrical transfer work during the spring break. So very little interruption to the school process.
That was a fight to get.
And that was a fight to
Yes,
get.
it was.
Yes, it was a fight to get. Considering that initially we were planning to have that last June.
Yes.
Wow.
So finally able to get that also. Yeah. That's all I have. Any questions?
How many welding bays are we gonna end up with?
You end up with 32.
32.
Yeah.
And then are we putting solar panels on the new portion also?
Currently not, no. It is designed to take them if you're able to work on an agreement with NIPSCO, but that was the holdup, is that if you made a change, there would be some contractual issues to do that, so. Yeah. But
The
it is,
original, it might negate our original contract, we never got a concrete answer, and it, with the net metering, so we would be giving up our net metering contract that we have right now, which is good for 3 years, and reducing it to 15, so we didn't want to do that. Right now, we are overproducing for that size of the building. Granted, we're more than doubling the building, so it's gonna offset a lot of that, but yes, it's something we can look into in the future, but it wasn't something to rush into now, especially when programs are being trimmed back a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Will the Area B all be up and running by August?
still substantial completion is scheduled for August 1st, yes.
Okay. And everything would be moving away? All construction, equipment, workers vacated?
By that time, most of that should be gone. There'll still be little things to do, like final balancing of the HVAC and stuff like that, so there'll be periodic contractors that come in and make the adjustments and, fix little things that you guys find as you're using it. But for the most part, it'll be substantially complete by August 1st.
This will include the new section.
So it sounds like all the whole new carpentry, classroom additions on the inside, everything equipped and ready to roll.
If you approve that tonight, we will be on schedule to do that.
Okay.
So that's your second item under here, the Area B area, and then Jeff may want to jump in a little bit on that. So you are looking at the quote here from Gary up our prime on that building here for the construction of that area. So it is for $505,332. That'll include, jump in and go right ahead. I've got it in front of me.
Includes basically 2 classrooms, and then all the support structure for the additional equipment they need for the building trades program. There's quite a bit of electrical stuff that have to go into it, a little bit of plumbing.
HVAC.
Yeah,
HVAC,
HVAC.
we're doing split units for the classrooms, and that includes in there too, painting in the area, ceiling tiles in the classrooms as well, safety railing in between the general build area, and then to help the traffic flow, so that they're not walking right through a construction zone, so it's that way.
Excuse me. And we did put some forethought into it as well. We know that one of the secondary areas, if we ever look to expand to another program addition, electrical was there running a close second. So we had those conversations so that if we ever went that direction to expand, that area would support that program as well.
Yeah. So that'll include for machinery area, that kind of stuff, all the drops and everything for that.
Yeah, the drops and stuff like that.
Okay. Is that everything? All right, number 2, approve the change order with area construction for Area B construction trades at the Red Devil Trades Building in the amount of $505,332. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right. Technology. Approve the district's administration to apply for the Indiana Department of Education Common School Fund Loan for Technology.
So twice a year, we have an opportunity to apply for a low-cost loan through the Department of Education. Typically, we use this for student devices as we do our refresh each year. This time around, for the spring portion of that, we're eligible for a little over $322,000, which I would like to use to replace some student MacBook Airs at the high school, as well as some of our elementary iPads. And additionally, some televisions at the elementary level. We have a few spaces that now that they're starting to expand out into other areas of the buildings. And we'd like to be able to use those so that they can have displays in those areas.
This is a lower interest loan, 1%, sponsored by the state, typically paid back within 5 years, if not two. Replacing old debt. We've got falling off anyway, so it's kind of a cycle that we just keep it for our refresh.
Gotcha.
I'll make a motion. I will second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, this is operation. Approve the software conversion for district financial payroll and extracurricular accounts to Lowell Financial.
So I spoke briefly at the last board meeting about our financial, our process here of evaluating a financial system for our school district. In 2015, we moved to Skyward on the financial side for financial and payroll. Our bookkeepers or extracurricular accounts stayed on our old software at the time, and that's with RDS out of Crown Point. We had intentions of moving them over to Skyward, but as we started using the Skyward financial system, we started seeing some challenges, so I paused that a little bit and kept our bookkeepers on the RDS system. We've had audits under Skyward, and in 2018, it was recommended, one of the recommendations that came about from State Board of Accounts was that we look for a new software or develop some serious internal controls of our own that would make up for the shortfalls of our software. Being a smaller school district, let's say, adding staff was not right on the top of the list to make our software system work, so we started evaluating other software systems in 2018. We created a committee that included the business department, assistant food service director, and bookkeepers, so I'm with Jay on the technology end, to evaluate different software systems. We ran a survey of other software systems that business offices use in other school districts. We developed a list of items that must-haves, let's say, that we needed to have, things that we've learned from softwares that we've used before. They included that we had to have user function here, that we had to have, it's gotta be user-friendly, it's gotta be window-based, and that you could also dump your reports into PDF or Excel as well, and approval flows. We wanted approval flows within the system for purchase orders and for different other functions as well. We wanted customer service support rather than ticket entry and wait for someone to call you back. We've had some critical tickets for payroll process that have gone unanswered for hours, days, even when we're trying to run a payroll. So we were looking for that customer service edge where we could pick up the phone and call someone and actually be able to get some assistance right away. We wanted a system that was Indiana-based and knowledgeable of what our reports and our requirements are by the state, because every time you turn around, you've got another reporting function, another mandatory. There's a lot of transparency reports that we are uploading every single financial transaction now on a 6-month basis, and we're doing all our reconciliations on a monthly. This is stuff that we didn't do in 2015 or even just 3 years ago before the pandemic. So a lot of these requirements, if you don't have an Indiana-based company that understands what those are, they can put it in your hands and say, you can build those reports and you can upload. So we were looking for an Indiana-based company that understood that. Also, that understood our means of accounting. We are a cash-based accounting state, where Skyward is an accrual-based. And what that means is there's a whole back end of accounting and almost like a double entry that we have to do to make an accrual system work for a cash-based. It's technical, but very cluttered, very cumbersome for us. And then we just wanted, the other must-have was an automation and integration process, something that we could switch some of our old process, all of our old processes over, such as using a time clock. We punch time clocks here in Tri-Creek and we add up time on the time clocks. We wanted a digital option so that we could have our employees punch in and out, and the system would help us, determine those times. It would help us with time theft, all that kind of stuff, and help us with the efficiency in our building. So those were the must-haves that our committee came up with. We looked solidly at two systems that were very prominent in our area. There's not many systems that meet all of those out there, all of those criteria for us, but because there are a lot of national systems that just are trying to break into the Indiana market, and we really truly didn't want that. So we looked at Lowell Financial, and we also looked at software systems. And the committee unanimously recommended the Lowell Financial. Now, Lowell is a local company out of South Bend. They do service many school districts up in this area. They're prominent not only in school districts, but also towns and municipalities as well. So they are definitely customer service centered. Two of our members, actually three, if you count me, two, because I've used Lowell and I in different districts as well, but two of our current members of our team that just came on came from districts that were using Lowell as well. So they're current users. I used it in Hanover back in 2013 and before then. And the cost savings between moving from Skyward to Lowell Financial would save the district $12,000, which would allow us to add, I'm going to spend that money, so don't go shaking your head, but I would be able to add the advanced time module, which would mean that we go virtual with our time clocks here in the district as well. That I would add that for $20,000, $20,890, but that will relieve our bookkeepers of sitting there and manually calculating and then handing over and manually entering in. It'll be an automated process where the principals or the department heads will be able to approve payroll online rather than, again, calculating time cards and making sure time cards got over and missing someone who hasn't been paid, all those things that just bog a payroll system for us. We'll be able to put all our rules in there, clocking in, clocking out early. It'll help us with our employee management and just discipline as well. So I would highly recommend moving towards that. So before you have a pretty hefty bill because of course conversion does cost. A one-time cost there to convert to the system does show that it's about $100,000, but when we back out the reoccurring costs, it's actually around $60,000 to convert. You're going to get that with any system you're going to. State Board of Accounts again recommends that we either put in some serious controls here or we look for a new system. And I will say, you guys know the troubles that we've had with our system in accounting a current one. Skyward is very prominent down south, around Indianapolis and south, in larger school districts. It is a system that larger school districts have more people to run that system. Up here, Valpo Schools is on it, Woodford Schools, and us. We all made the change at the same time, and other schools up here, those three schools, two of them, at least one is looking. So we're not the only ones that are possibly looking to move away from financial Skyward. So before you is the recommendation to allow financial. Conversion would happen, they don't convert on accounting closing dates. They won't convert in July or January because their customer service comes first to their current customers. So they convert on an off month. So we are targeting sometime around September to make the switch. So it's kind of in between the quarters. So we'll have a couple months on one system and another month on the other. It's not that you're bringing your data over, so it'll be fine. It'll be seamless in that way. But it would be nice to do it over the summer, but we don't want to rush into this. We want to make sure everything is straight and smooth. Skyward, we're able to bring them on in 3 months, or keep them on in 3 months chunks. So our contract does end June 30th, but we can keep adding them for 3 months. And continue them, I would suggest keeping Skyward until we're through conversion, and then possibly 2 more months, another couple months after that. So it'll be probably 6 months through December 31st that we keep Skyward, just to make sure both systems are running good, and then we'll cut that away. This would include our extracurricular. I want to move those bookkeepers off of RDS, which is a green screen, no mouse function keys, like you have to hit to print. It's a very, very old system. So I want to move them over to Lowell Financial as well, which is included in this quote. They would be using the same software that we would and the same functionality. So those bookkeepers would be very knowledgeable of our system, and we'd be very knowledgeable of theirs. So it would be seamless. It hasn't been that way. Again, they're on a very green screen, function key type system right now. So that'll help efficiency.
Sounds like a much better system.
Yes, it's going to be a lot of work.
I'm sure
Conversions
it
are
will.
never fun. I'll say that, but it's well worth it.
I'm sure with all the different changes, it's gonna pay for itself eventually. Do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Alrighty. Approved the Winston and Terrell contract for consulting on public outreach and communication support.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of great things going on in the Tri Creek School Corporation, and if you recall back in the fall, I recommended holding off on hiring a public relations communications person. We'd like to reach out to the Winston Terrell Group. They're well known throughout the state. They have a proven track record in regards to really rallying around communities and getting communities reignited to support their school corporation and the great things that are going on. I think we've got some things that we can learn from them, and then perhaps just carry on with us indefinitely. It is a 6-month contract, so it would start approximately June and go through December.
Do I have a motion?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Alright. Consent items. I'm gonna read through these. Number one, accept a donation from Crystal Travis and Donald Myers of Lowell, Indiana, in the amount of $24 to help fund the Lowell High School Pride Banquet dinners, banners, etc. Number two, accept a donation from the Portable Garage Store of Lowell, Indiana, in the amount of $150 to help fund the Lowell High School Pride Banquet dinners, banners, etc. Number three, accept a donation from Lake Prairie Elementary School PTO in the amount of $108 excuse me, to purchase the field day shirts. Number four, accept a donation from Lake Prairie Elementary School PTO in the amount of $277.20 to help fund the grade 2 study trip. Number five, accept a donation from Lake Prairie Elementary School PTO in the amount of $630 to help fund the grade 1 study trip. Number six, accept a donation from Oak Hill Elementary School PTO in the amount of $100 to help support the Title I parent.
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Board policy review.
Yeah, I wanted to put this on the agenda. No action required, just more of discussion. Thank you for attending the workshop last week.
It's very beneficial.
Yeah, obviously we had some good takeaways from that. So we're in the process of coordinating a list, like what are those policies that we're looking to get some revision sooner than later, and then obviously get a cyclical system in place for that constant review. Right now, I have the working list of some of our more immediate revisions regarding Title IX, non-fraternization, public comment, and then we'll be looking to develop some kind of policy to permit our safety coordinator to carry a firearm. We need to update our policy to pursue that. Can you think of any other policies offhand that come to mind that we need to put on this list?
Have the one on there for public comment, or?
Yeah, so I do have public comment. We're still kind of going through the policies, but if you had one that you knew right away, right? I think I've thrown out some of the ones we've struggled with.
Yeah.
So, can any of you think of? It's not important that we have a complete list tonight, just wanted to get the ball rolling.
But this is something we're gonna be continually doing, once a month. At one of our meetings, we're gonna go through and review policies as we get through them and continually do it. So we learned that should be something good practice of doing.
Yeah, I think the next step is this upcoming week for the administrative team to take a look, like what would be the best approach to tackling that. Reaching out to Deborah, she's the board liaison for board policy. At what point does she need to come into that conversation? So that then we bring it to the board to read through, that it's efficient, timely, not in the weeds, but it keeps the board refreshed about here are our policies. Just make our way down the checklist.
And that's something we can actually pull up on board docs, see the policy, and then see when it was put in and revisit it and everything like that.
Yeah.
So,
That was the nice thing out of the workshop.
yes, it was definitely. Did you explain what the workshop was?
To the couple in our audience
Yeah.
and those visiting online, we had a legal counsel from the Indiana School Board Association conduct a workshop for us regarding board policy. And it's a service included, so we didn't get charged extra for it. And she spent a good 2.5 hours here. Took us through the electronic version of how we have our board policy organized electronically. That's accessed online through the website, so public access through there. But there are features in that board docs that will help us to receive updates, have recommended changes, and as we go through the process, we can input, we review this and update it on such and such date so that we know our board policies have not been overlooked and constantly keep them current. Do you all have anything else to add?
It was just great training, kind of opened up our eyes to, good practices and things that we need to be doing, and
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
And how board policy just drives everything that happens throughout the district, and then how administrative guidelines fall in, as a part of that. So, good takeaway.
Yep.
That's all I had.
That's it. All right. Does anybody have anything else? Anything else from the board?
Dana hosted today approximately 25 business officials from Northwest Indiana. I think the representative was here from Indianapolis from DLGF, and DLGF would be what? Department of Local Government Financing. And I will tell you, you can feel very proud of her hospitality. I walked down to the LGI at the middle school, and it looked top notch, not a thing out of place, and she had, great job.
You're a tough act to follow, so thank you.
You can feel proud that Tri-Creek hosted that meeting.
Good.